I'm not.
Go ahead.
Well, one note I just wanted to make, it's too bad there wasn't an extra chair, because I think Alexander Payne's movies do something that one of you mentioned, which is, in those movies you have that moment of the least appropriate thing being said at a moment, and Citizen Ruth is a good example of that for me. But I think one of the things that really made Bad Lieutenant so exciting for me, and part of when a movie really comes alive, is when there's an element of surprise. And I think in that nursing home scene, you know, you pull the gun out the first time and you get the information. The second time you pull it out, that was a real surprise to me.
That was totally improvised. I didn't know I was going to do it. So that's interesting that you mentioned that.
So, and I think part of what moved me about your performance, and again I felt it after you go in and you handle the apprehension all by yourself, and you come out and all the cops are looking at you, and in a normal Hollywood movie, that's the real swagger moment, look what I just did. But you come out and you just kind of chuckle and kind of burst into a little bit of laughter, and like, man, I love this is great. And I think that's what really makes you a fascinating performer for me, is there's many times during the movie when I'm just surprised. And in Hollywood, that doesn't happen that much. It tends to follow the formula. And again, in the old Bad Lieutenant, as the cop is falling apart, and in most Hollywood movies, you know, this is just going to a straight-out, chaotic, destructive ending. And part of what was surprising in this film, the shit works out.
Yeah. Well, that's all Werner, you know, that whole look at, he told me an interesting story about one man who survived. I don't want to paraphrase, but he survived. He was not a great guy. He did a lot of mistakes, and I think he was in a prison. I'm sure Werner will tell the story far better than I can, but he's the only one that survived this volcano or earthquake or something. The guy that did the worst stuff got away, and everyone else died. I mean, that's interesting that you pointed that out. I think that's what separates it. Another reason that separates it from Abel's movie.
It occurs to me that and since this is about humor, what distinguishes actors, the difference in acting, even if the part doesn't call for humor, an actor seems to inject their own sense of humor even into a role that, as I said, doesn't call for it, is not written that way. Do you find that your own personality or how you see life, and even if something is serious, you see it in a humorous way? Do you feel that that comes out? Because it occurs to me that it does with different actors in different parts.
Who are you asking?
George. Handle that one.
Anybody?
George.
Well, what was I going to say?
Okay, so
in my case, I know that I do a lot of stuff, which is when my editor sees it, he's worried for me if he's going to include it in the film, and I have to reassure him that I'm not going to be too hurt, and I think that's good. And you know, and the other thing with these sorts of films, in terms of comedy,